For the sake of this assembly and all it please send the wonderful Dharma to teach us how to live suffering and attain this and perfect and quickly realize long.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one.
Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one.
Namo saranto suchedoye alahadi samyao sanbutoshe.
Namo saranto suchedoye alahadi samyao sanbutoshe.
无上甚深微妙法，百千万劫难遭遇。我今见闻得受持，愿解如来真实义。Supreme and wondrous Dharma, subtle and profound, rarely is encountered even in billions of eons. But now we see and hear it and accept it reverently. May we truly understand the Buddha's actual meaning. Excuse me. Finish the Dharma request of the big sneeze. 师父上人，各位师兄，大家阿弥陀佛。My name is Heng Shi. Welcome to our Sutra lecture. Glad that you're here with us today. It is Sunday, December 12th here in Queensland. It would be Saturday night, December 11th back in California. No matter where you are around the planet, if you're tuned in to our Sutra lecture, I'm happy that you're here. Our volunteers are translating into Mandarin and also into Vietnamese so we can let our lecture go further around the planet, more folks can understand. Here is our invocation, and we're going to use this melody and these words to invite another group of revered individuals to draw near, the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas, the 10 directions and the 3 periods of time, and also the Dharma protectors. They're called the Tianlong Babu, gods and the dragons and the Eightfold Pantheon, hoping they will also draw near and protect this Dharma assembly. All those taking part. Namo that on a 1915 A.A. Farland banjo. I realize I haven't done one thing, one important change here. I need to turn on original sound. There, probably makes the banjo sound a lot more musical. Okay, well, once again, welcome. Glad you're here. We're going to be reading from the Huayanjing Flower Garland Sutra, the first stage of the 10 stages chapter. Now, we've explained it before in great detail, told lots of stories, investigated all the what are called the Mingxiang, the Buddhist technical terms. But the result of approaching the sutra that way is you go so slow. And if you go so slow, you can lose the thread, you can lose interest. And it takes a very dedicated person to stick with these lectures. In order to increase people's interest and in order to shed more light and a different light on this text, we're going to read it. We are reading the Huayanjing as if it were a book, as if it were literature. And the benefits of that are you get to hear the ideas as they flow. It's not so slow. You get to hear how a bodhisattva gets trained. And gee whiz, if somebody asked me, what have you learned about the Huayanjing, what have you learned about the 10 grounds, 10 stages chapter, I would say, I have learned that this is a handbook. It is instructions. It's a how-to manual for somebody who asks the question, what is a bodhisattva and how do you make one? How do you become a bodhisattva? What is a bodhisattva? The answer is in this book. It is a step-by-step manual. In Chinese, what do they say? 手册, right? 说明书. It is a how-to. It's that. And it's very precise, very detailed. It talks about, in this circumstance, here's how a bodhisattva reacts. Here are the thoughts in the mind of a bodhisattva when this happens. And here's what a bodhisattva says in this circumstance. So it tells you about the thoughts, the actions, and the words of a bodhisattva. And golly, I tell you the truth, when I studied Buddhism in college, and I guess a little bit in high school, but mostly in college, all the textbooks talked about suffering and its end. They talked about what are called the Four Noble Truths, 四谛, 四圣谛. Talked about the Eightfold Path as the fourth noble truth. They talked about bodhisattva, about how Buddhas sought to enter nirvana, and often that nirvana was called what? Extinction, like a dinosaur. And you could almost never find the word bodhisattva mentioned in the books. They always stopped with the goal of the Theravada tradition, which is the arhat, the being who has put an end to birth and death. Now that's certainly news, that's worth knowing about, but it's not the whole story. Only when I sat and listened to the teachings of Venerable Master Xuanhua, Shangshen Xiahua, did I understand that there was more to the story. There was this whole body of learning centered around a different hero, a different way to be, a different paradigm. And that was the bodhisattva, the awakened being, the person who took the Dharma out into the world, found a way to connect it to others. And you don't find that other places. So when people say, you Buddhists, you're so selfish. You're just there under a tree seeking nirvana. You just want to duck out, right? And you say, well, the Buddhist family is a big family. And it has lots and lots of houses in the Buddhist city, the transformed city. There are houses where people seek to end suffering, and by golly, that's hard and that's noble to do that. That's such a good thing to do with your life compared to, plundering the earth for its resources and getting rich and making yourself happy. Ending suffering is a wonderful goal, but to end your own suffering, your suffering's not done. That's, I think, the lesson of the Mahayana, the Hanchuan Fujiao, as they say, the Chinese tradition, which is that we're connected. And because we're connected, my suffering ends doesn't mean that suffering has reduced much on the planet. And it's a much nobler, it's a higher calling to set as your goal an ending of suffering for others, or even you could say for everyone. It doesn't take much to open your eyes, open your ears, and realize that in the world of animals and birds and fish and insects, there is a tremendous amount of suffering that goes on every day. The number of animals killed for food, for example, is just staggering. And is that our best way to be a human? If not, maybe we could change. Maybe we could think about reducing the amount of suffering for others. So the Bodhisattva path says, indeed, 众生无边誓愿度. I'm going to save countless living beings. I'm going to save them all, despite the fact that there's no end to them, which is, of course, an impossible job. But let's hear it for the Bodhisattva who says, yeah, I can. That's my goal. I think big. I'm dreaming the impossible dream, and I'm going to see if I can't make it happen. So that's inspiring. That is insightful and doable. It's compassionate. So this, as the preamble, this is our preparation. I'm going to show you today's text. Okay, it's actually right here. Starting there, we'll make it nice and big so people can see it. Okay, here we are. A little bit bigger. A little bigger, please. Oh, the wrong way. One more time. There we go. Here we go. All right. We ready? Here we go. 佛子菩萨如是成就10种净诸地法，所谓信、悲、慈、舍，无有批验，智诸经论，善结事法，惭愧，坚固力，供养诸佛，以教修行。Disciples of the Buddha, the Bodhisattva, in that way accomplishes 10 dharmas that purify the stages. That is, faith, compassion, kindness, renunciation, non-weariness, knowledge of sutras and shastras, skill in understanding worldly dharmas, repentance and reform, the power of stability, making offerings to the Buddhas, and carrying out the Buddha's instructions. How about that? What have we got? What is this? It is, not that, it's here. Look at this list. I thought this was fascinating. There we are. Oops. My Zoom toolbar blocks my access to the controls. There we go. All right. What have we got? These are 10 things that our first stage beginning bodhisattva uses to, let's see, there we go. Okay, Jerry wrote me a note. Is original sound enabled? It was. Is the static sound gone. My question to my faithful tech wizard, is the static sound gone? I hope so. So, what do we have here? This is the first stage of 10. This is the freshman year of the Bodhisattva's college career. This is the beginning of her path, and the foundation is set right here. So whatever we've been learning about here on the first stage is what the other 9 are going to be built on. If this foundation is solid and stable, our Bodhisattva will go all the way to graduation. He will cross the stage as a graduating senior, get his sheepskin, get his diploma, wear the funny hat, and go on to what? Further studies, probably. This is the first stage. So the things that the Bodhisattva needs to learn here have to apply all the way through all 10 stages. Look at the list. Look at the components of the Bodhisattva's foundation. Number 1, faith. Xin, right? Why faith? Because a lot of what this Bodhisattva is doing is not evident to his senses, her senses. Can't see it. You have to take the word of the Buddha and the Bodhisattvas that this is the case. Who says so? Remember Vajra Treasury Bodhisattva, Qinggangzang Pusa at the start? He said, I don't want to talk about this because nobody's going to get it. Nobody can understand it. So I'm just going to be quiet. And it took some talking to get him to teach. He didn't want to. He said, this is like, what's it like? He said, it's like a bird flying through the air. Can you show me the trace of that bird once he goes by? No. He said, like the tracks of a bird in space. That's the 10 stages. That's the 10 grounds chapter. It's that hard to appreciate. You have to walk in the air for a while before you get solid ground under your feet. He said, so faith is necessary. But notice, what's the name of the first stage? All of you who know it, please raise your hand out there in cyberspace. If I were in the Berkeley Monastery, I know whose hand would go up first. What's the name of the first stage? The first stage is called Huan Xi Di, the stage of happiness, the stage of joy. So this stepping out into the air and trusting that something will be there to catch you, that's happiness. It's joyful. It's not scary. Reminds me. Close this here. I want to bring up our teacher's picture. Here's Master Huang. Okay. So, does this monk look afflicted to you? Does he look upset and unhappy? Not. The opposite, right? He looks like a joyful soul, and indeed he was. So, my pilgrimage that I took back years ago was finished. And my companion, the former Bhikshu Heng Chao, currently Professor Verhoeven, had arrived. He and I had arrived at City of 10,000 Buddhas. And we were continuing to bow around the Buddha Hall at City of 10,000 Buddhas, every 3 steps taking a bow. A laywoman and a layman, a couple, Dr. Wesley Wu and his wife Helen, came up to City of 10,000 Buddhas and talked to Master Hua. Said, Shifu, could we invite the bowing monks down to Los Angeles to lecture on the Huayan Jing? And so Shifu said, I'll ask them. I don't order my disciples around. So Shifu said, 你们俩如果上居士要请你们下去洛杉矶讲华严经，你们愿不愿意？ Pasika Helen Wu and her husband Wesley have invited the 2 of you down to LA to Gold Wheel to lecture on the Huayan Jing. You want to do it? He said. We're like, I don't know if I can lecture on the Huayan Jing. Shifu, I'm still silent. He says, when you lecture, you can talk. You just keep your vow of silence when you're not lecturing. You understand? And so we're like, Los Angeles? We want to go to LA? So it was decided, yes, we were going to LA. We were going to explain the Huayan Jing. And then we heard our conditions, how we were going to do it. Master Hua said, okay, you have this brand new monastery here. You can explain the Huayan Jing twice a day, once after lunch and once in the evening. I could see the lay people looking at each other. Twice a day. If we invite them, we have to support them. We have to attend the lectures. Sherpa said, yes. And he said, okay, I'll go down with you and get you set up. So we flew down to LA. This new temple called the Jinlun Si, Gold Wheel, on 6th Street in LA. It's in the Hispanic ghetto. Tough neighborhood. Helicopters overhead every single night, and the police helicopters come out whenever guns are involved in the crimes. Every night, these lights, these spotlights, coming through the windows because anyways, that's another part of the story. That's not what I want to talk about. Tough neighborhood. So, twice a day, Marty and I were going to be explaining the Huayan Jing, and Shifu said, here's how you do it. He said, you study during the day. You can read the commentaries. You can read my commentary. We published it. You can prepare all you like, and most important is you cultivate yourself. You meditate, you're following the precepts as best you can. You eat one meal a day. You work hard. But when it comes time to explain the sutra, you may not take any single piece of paper up on that platform with you. Only the sutra. And Shifu, how long are we going to be lecturing? 90 minutes. Twice a day. We're like, that's really scary. What are we going to talk about? He said, not easy, is it? He said, I'm teaching you my method. What is my method? Said Shifu, here's what I do. He says, I prepare. I rely on the commentaries to find out what the learned monks of the Tang Dynasty thought about this part of the sutra, that part of the sutra. And then I close the commentaries, and I rely on my own cultivation, my own samadhi. How much do I have? That's how good my lecture will be. And before I begin, I put my palms together and I sincerely ask the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the Huayan Haihui Fo Pusa to Jia Bei. I ask the Namo Da Fang Guang Fo Huayan Jing Huayan Haihui Fo Pusa, the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the ocean-wide Avatamsaka Assembly, to come and help me, give me whatever light or aid they can, so that I can explain the sutra in a way that makes sense to people. That's my method. Are you willing? We're like, but Shifu, what will we say? He says, you weren't listening. Pay no attention. Don't worry. He said, it will be fine. When you use this method, you are actually repeating the method that the Bodhisattva in the sutra uses when the Buddha uses his Wei Shen Li Liang to jiachi, to help out, to aid the Bodhisattva. The Buddha is not speaking. He's inviting a Bodhisattva to come and speak on his behalf. That's how it is in the sutra. You do it that way. That's the way I do it. Everybody else is Gong Qing Da De Sang Ting. May the Sangha with great virtue out of compassion. They are requesting Dharma. At the same time, you are requesting the real Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the 10 directions and the 3 periods of time to come and help you out. See how it works? He said, this is real lecturing. It comes out of your nature. He said, the audience will understand to the degree that you are true. He said, if you are true to the method and not false thinking, when it comes time for you to open your mouth, you'll know what to say. That's my method, he said. Can you do it twice a day for 90 minutes each time? The lay people looked at each other again, it was like, we'll be there, sure. He said, here's the deal, here's how it works. He said, the sutra has the principles of wisdom that everybody wants to hear. You have your degree of stillness and samadhi and preparation. That is a part of your cultivation. The audience, the assembly, who are here to listen, have their questions and their needs. So there is a chemistry that happens. There's the wisdom of the sutra. There's the needs and the interest of the audience and their questions. And then there is your degree of cultivation and stillness. You put those three together and you have an interesting lecture. He said, if you only present something that came out of a book, it's just like 炒冷饭. It's like feeding people leftovers. 不好吃，也没营养. They're not only not tasty, there's no nutrition there. But if you dare go on stage without any paper to read from, it requires you to be true to your own mind and to your reflections on the sutra. That way, it's fresh and it's tasty, and people get a lot out of it. So, and then, okay, so we're we're kind of believing it and kind of not believing it. How do we lecture for 2 hour-and-a-half sessions a day without writing our talk down and reading? So then Shifu turns to the audience and he said, okay, he said, you've invited my monks down to LA to explain. You all better make sure there's an audience there to listen, to inspire them so that they can try harder to explain the sutra for you. He said, it's not necessarily the case that the person who can talk a lot makes the best lecturer. He said, what matters equally is how well can you listen, he said. It's not the case that I lecture very well, he said, referring to himself. He said, it's a question of my audiences have learned to listen really well. And if the audience can listen, even a mediocre lecturer can really, if he's true, can really reflect the principles of the Dharma that will help you wake up. 你们懂吗? He said. And they're like,师父, kinda. So, how interesting to have this. What's it? It's based on faith. This is based on faith and method. It's not just faith. Faith would kind of suggest there's nothing there, it's just all made up. But there is a method behind this, and a reliance on the Buddha and the wisdom of the sutras, the sincerity of the request of the Sambao, Changzhu Sambao, the Buddha Dharma and Sangha of the Shifang Sanshi, Yiche Changzhu Sambao, that they're really there, they really do want the sutra lecture to help people out, to wake people up. And then there's your wish to be like a lens, so that the light of the Dharma can shine through your lens into the heart of the audience. That was Shifu's method. Okay, so you need faith. Otherwise, you could run screaming. What's it like to be sitting up on a platform with 20 people, 30 people out in the audience, and if you don't say anything, there's silence? I don't hear anything. Nobody's talking. Yeah, because you're the lecturer. Oh, 各位善知识，各位来宾，各位导游，各位佛友，阿弥陀佛，诸上长老，阿弥陀佛。You know, what do you say? Oh my gosh, it's scary. But this is the point. When we got over our nerves, our jitters, our scaredness, when we stopped being scared, what's called what? Stage fright. 大众威德位, it's called the fear of the virtue of the assembly. When we were able to use Shifu's method in faith, there was this remarkable experience. It felt like this. It felt like over there is Mount Sumeru, or you could say Nirvana Mountain. That's where we want to go. We are, or you could say that is Bi'an. That's the other shore. And we are on Ci'an. We're on this shore here. And in between is an ocean. It's called the Kuhai, the ocean of suffering. And we have to get across it for our lecture to succeed. So the funny thing was, when we did this, when we put our palms together, asked for aid, and relied upon the wisdom of the sutra and Shifu's method, it's like you put a foot out, and there was this feeling that like a lotus came up and caught your foot. And if you dared say, okay, this passage of the sutra means, you put your foot out and another lotus caught you. And step by step by step, across the ocean of suffering, or the silence of the lecture hall, you made it across safely to the other shore. And at the end, strangely enough, people said, that was interesting. I felt there was something real there. That was okay. That was worth coming. Maybe I'll come back tomorrow, they said. That was the experience. So, what is that? That is a long story about faith, to describe what it's like using, when you're Master Hua's disciple, and you're here speaking the Dharma. Hold on. We need this. We need this. There. That's what I'm looking for. Okay. Now, look at the next three. Compassion, 慈, kindness. Oh, let's see. Compassion would be 悲. Kindness is 慈. And then renunciation is 舍. These three are part of another group called 四无量心, 4 limitless hearts, 4 limitless attitudes, 4 limitless mindsets. They are originally 慈悲, 喜, 舍. This is those 4 minus the 喜. Our bodhisattva is preparing to travel to the end of this training, to the 10th stage. In order to get there, he's got to have a solid foundation. She's got to have a solid foundation. These are big pieces of that foundation. 慈悲, 喜, 舍. Notice what they're not. They're not hard. They're not sharp. They're not clever or cutting or mean or nasty or competitive. Any of those things. None of them. They're, what do they say? The Chinese tradition says, 无量, 无缘大慈, 同体大悲. It is to say, what is kindness according to the old formula? It is you feel connected and kind to people, even those with whom you have no particular connection. In other words, kindness even to strangers. You feel that same kindness. You see the connection. And then compassion. Compassion is said to be 同体大悲. Compassion for beings who you recognize are made up of the same stuff that you are made of. 同体, same body, great compassion. Those you could take those two definitions to the bank, as they say. You can take that to the bank. That's what they say back in Kansas. So what does it mean? Kindness even for strangers, for people you have no particular connection to. I've told this story before about there was a period on that pilgrimage when we were traveling up the coast of California when young boys in pickup trucks after school got their fun out of running their pickup trucks as close to the monks as they could. To see, this called chicken, with bowing monks being the chickens. And there was this is in Central California near Paso Robles and San Luis Obispo. There was one particular country high school where kids from 50 miles around would come to that high school. And they all drove their farm trucks, their ranch trucks, back to the ranch, back to the farm at night. And about 4 p.m., when school let out, we would hear them coming from a distance, because it's flat in Central California. And here come the pickups. And we would just, you can, Amitofo, Guanyin Bodhisattva, I sure hope you're listening to the phone, because there's gonna be a truck driving off the road at 40 miles an hour right at my head in about 5 minutes. So, and when the trucks come, of course, we're bowing on the turnout full of gravel and dust, and the dust blows up and the gravel spits out, and so this was happening every day for maybe a month, because it took that long to get past the region of the high school. First you're 50 miles on this side of it, and you pass it, and you're 50 miles on that side of it, and you're 25 miles. Scary. And I was thinking, I didn't understand Tong Ti Da Bei, same body, great compassion. I didn't understand Wu Yuan Da Ci, kindness even for strangers. I was thinking more like, okay, Guanyin Bodhisattva, you've got 42 hands, and I've seen swords and maces and spears and bows and arrows. Please use those on these kids and wipe them out, because these are rotten living beings who are disturbing me and trying to kill me with their trucks. Not compassion, not compassion. And so at the end of one day, we wound up in a parking lot at a gas station, not far from Paso Robles. And we had to fill our water jugs. We were out of water. We had these big plastic milk bottles that we converted into water jugs. We had 4 or 5 in the car. And we brushed our teeth, and we washed the dishes, and we drank out of these water jugs, because we were living in a car at the time, a station wagon. And we pulled up to this country gas station, and Heng Chao took 2 handfuls full of empty water jugs and went over to the gas station hose that you fill your car radiator with, that water hose, and started to fill the jugs. And I looked over to the right by the gas pumps, and guess what? There were 2 of the pickup trucks of the young boys who 15 minutes earlier had been trying to kill us with their trucks. There they were, the gas station. And I'm thinking, oh no. And, what if they see us and come over and try to beat us up? So I slipped down below the level of the windows, because I didn't do the work. I was silent. I couldn't talk, so I was just sitting in the car. Marty was out filling the car. So I slid down and pulled in and kind of like hid, but I could still keep my eyes over to see if these guys were going to come over. And what did I see? At the side of their pickup truck was an elderly Chinese gentleman, strangely wearing a yellow robe and a knit cap. There's Master Hua. There's my teacher. at the gas station in Paso Robles. He goes over to the pickup truck and leans into the truck, puts his forearms on the window ledge and says, "Hello, how are you? Everybody okay? Everything okay?" he says. And I can see the expression on the faces of these high school kids who have this smiling Chinese man looking in at their, absolutely unafraid and genuinely smiling at them. And one of them says, "Hola, padre." "Cómo está?" he says. "How are you, father?" Recognized him as a religious man. And Master Hua reaches into his sleeves and he pulls out some candy. He says, "You like?" He says, "One for you, one for you. How about you? You have brother at home? Take your brother, your sister, Gives them all candy. And they're like, "Oh, muchas gracias, señor." And so Master Hua has them all laughing in 2 minutes. They're all having a great time. And they're just these kids. They recognize this is somebody leaning in their car window, and their truck window. The other guys get out of their truck, and they're all gathered around. And Master Hua is learning their names and making them laugh. And I'm watching, what's going on here? And he turns them into like puppy dogs in just a matter of minutes. And you realize these are just young men who are bored after school, and having 2 monks do something unexplainable on the roadside is a perfect opportunity for them to investigate what's going on and show their strength and test out their skill at driving and all. Of course they want to give the monks trouble, So Master Hua, they finish gassing up, and they get back in their trucks and they drive away, and "Hasta la vista, padre," "See you again. Hope to see you soon, father," And so Master Hua comes over, looks down at me, who was minutes before I'd been thinking, "Guanyin Bodhisattva, use your Vajra pestle and smash these evil boys to bits." And he looks down at me and he says, "Aren't you ashamed of yourself?" He said, "你不觉得很惭愧吗？你不觉得太迟吗？" He said, "Great compassion isn't only for good people. Great compassion gathers everyone in. 你不懂吗?" He said. And I'm like, So, first of all, how did he show up at that moment? Number 2, he was showing me what does it mean to say 同体大悲, same body, great compassion, 无缘大慈, kindness even for strangers, kindness even for people with whom you have no particular connection, 无缘大慈, great kindness. So that's the Bodhisattva's heart. He looks past the surface, she looks past the surface, and sees the sameness and the goodness in everyone's heart. The connection is really, really there. And then if you're skillful, if you're Master Hua, you just, that fearlessness connects with people, and they just see the smile and the light and the goodness in your face. So, what a lesson. And then we continued to bow. And at that point, actually, we left with Master Hua to Asia, 1978. We went on a delegation tour from that point in Central California. We went with him to Malaysia, Singapore, Hong Kong. We passed by Taiwan that visit, but we went to Thailand briefly. Had an amazing experience in Asia, counted the bows. We kept bowing every night that Master Hua was speaking to Malaysia and Singapore, Hong Kong. And when we got back to California, 3 months later, we walked all the steps that we had missed while we were in Asia. We were still bowing, but we counted, we kept track. When we came back, we just walked off the number of steps. It took 2 days to walk all the steps, and then started bowing again. And after another couple months, we made it up to the San Francisco Bay Area. And what I noticed after, this is now 6 months later, we were now into February of 1979. We had another 8 months before we reached City of 10,000 Buddhas. And something had changed. Being with our teacher in Asia, listening to him speak Dharma every night, and traveling with him through all the small towns in Malaysia. We covered Malaysia from Johor Bahru all the way to Alor Star. We went from Terengganu in the east all the way to, we went to Sabah Sarawak. We went to the East Malaysia. And then on the west, little tiny towns in Selangor and Kota Baru and places, plus the big cities of Kuala Lumpur and Penang and Butterworth and Malacca. We covered all of Malaysia. And with this opportunity to watch every day, watch our teacher teach the Dharma and embody kindness even for strangers and great compassion for beings who you recognize are made of the same things that you're made of, Tong Ti, Dabe, same earth, air, fire, and water. What happened was, now, 6 months later, back in California, as I looked at people, something was different and strange, which was I felt as if, in many cases, I had seen that person somehow before. Couldn't explain it, but it was a feeling of no longer stranger. Something had changed in my eyes, my perception of people, and I was able to see people, something maybe past the surface, a little deeper. So I could see the sameness, the Tong Ti, and that was joyful. And I can imagine what it must be like for someone like my teacher or like Guanyin Bodhisattva, who not only can see the sameness and the family and the connection, but is able then to find a way to help the suffering end. So, yeah, that was a transformation that took place from then on. But gee whiz, I'll never forget having Master Hua confront me with the reality that I'd been using Guanyin Bodhisattva to hopefully beat people up. That's not kindness and compassion. Now, the renunciation part, the third of the 4 limitless attitudes, or 4 Si Wu Liang Xin limitless hearts, that's a topic we could explore for an entire lecture. I've heard various translations of that shu, and sometimes it's translated as, it's number 4 actually. Number 3 is happiness, which is not part of the 4. But I've heard people describe it as serenity. I've heard people describe it as giving, just simply giving, 舍去. I've heard it described as renunciation. That's the one that was used here. And if we add some in English, when you translate it, giving, what about giving in? You give in. What about letting go? What about giving up? Interesting shades of meaning here. She. I know, the one I was looking for, equanimity. Equanimity, that's another translation of that sha, where things become the same. And whenever I think of sha, I think of the face of the Bodhisattva Guanyin on the 16-foot tall camphor statue of the 1,000-hand, 1,000-eyed Guanyin Bodhisattva at City of 10,000 Buddhas, our Chenshou Chenyan Guanyin Pusa. Now that image it was carved by Wang Taisheng and his family, the late Buddha image maker master, who was from Ningbo originally. And there was a period in the 50s and 60s and 70s that Shifu told us about, which was after, this is of course after China was closed for monks couldn't leave. But in the 50s and 60s and 70s, if you established a monastery anywhere outside of China, you wanted a Wang Taisheng image. That was the sign of success. If you had a Wang Taisheng Buddha image in your Buddha hall, you were successful. That was what you wanted. That was a sign of success and status. That was how important, how significant this one family of Buddha image makers was. He escaped China. He came out to Hong Kong and set up his factory in Hong Kong. And then Master Hua invited him to the U.S. and he and his family immigrated to the U.S. And this 1,000-hand, 1,000-eyed Chenshou Chenyan Guanyin Pusa, Guanyin Bodhisattva, people have seen it. Let's see. I'm going to hold on here. I want to show people what it looks like. I think I can do it. Hold on here. I do that. Aha. Yes. Okay. We're going to make this our... There we are. There it is. Okay. That's the image we're talking about. That's the main image. You see my desktop here. Now, that image arrived at Gold Mountain Monastery when I was a brand new monk. I had just shaved my head as a novice, 1974. And it arrived bare wood in a big box, all taken apart in pieces. I remember, if I'd thought about this in advance, I might have had those pictures ready. Just on the off chance. Guanyin image. I had them on my hard drive. Let's see whether I can find... Oh, not that. Okay, here we go. Take just a second here. Not that. Not Guanyin mural. Guanyin Sudana. CTDB. 1,000 hands. Oh, guess what? Found it. Here it is. We'll bring that up and then see where. Here it is in the box, and that's me as a brand new monk. Interesting. The other more. Here we go. Okay, well, you get the impression, right? There it is. Guanyin is lying down, well, but she's still awesome. 16 feet tall, made of camphor wood, because camphor chases insects. Bugs don't like to eat camphor wood. So you can see the scale of this image. And so we assembled it with all the hands, and the hands come in like four in a piece, and you insert them in. They all had their numbers and the right slot. And the heads on the back, there are 11 heads, 42 hands. Each hand has a Dharma implement, Rui Bao Zhu and the Bao Bo and the Yue Fu Shou. all of those 42 hand implements had to be matched with the right hand. And so then we assembled it, and it was completely bare wood. It was just raw camphor wood, not gold. And then the Wang family arrived. First the image came, then the Wang family came afterwards. And we were involved in the immigration of them. And we had to, back then, this was 1974, the United States immigration from the State Department, their regulation was you had to prove that in America there wasn't already somebody there who could do this work. We had to make the case of how unique Mr. Wang and his family was, this traditional way of making Buddha images. I did some serious research, typing my letter to the United States immigration, saying Mr. Wang's work is unique and there's nobody like him in the world, much less the U.S. So we got them, convinced him, and he came. So then was the gilding once it was put together. You had to gild, 铁金. And the gilding is done with gold leaf. Gold leaf is a little, very, 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 very thin piece of actual gold. And the method of putting it on is family secret. Sorry. When they were putting the gold leaf on, the way to put it on, everybody had to leave. We couldn't watch and sneak a peek, you know. And so then once the gold leaf is on, and it has to be evened out, and it's expensive, you know, put gold, real gold on it. People made offerings. And then once it's on, one of the unique things about Master Wang Taisheng's gilding of the Buddha image was the luster, the shine on every square inch of his images. Not just ours, but all of Wang Taisheng's images had this incredible shine and a light to them. And I think probably I won't be giving away the family secret if I whisper. So we asked, of course, what is it? What is the secret ingredient? We figured, it must be something really exotic, something that is mined somewhere out in Sichuan province or something like this. And so Mr. Wang had a great sense of humor. He was a fun guy. He always took part in things like parades and celebrations. He knew how to have a good time. The Wang family was a lot of delightful people. But one day he said, you want to help? You want to help do the final code? And we said, yeah. Well, with the secret. And he said, sure, come on in the kitchen. So we're like, in the kitchen? He says, yeah, we'll get it ready. So what was it? Shifan. It was rice porridge. Stewed up some rice porridge, particularly soupy. Get a big paintbrush, paint the chiffon on, and it dries, and it's a perfect finish, and it's shiny. That was the family secret. So, I guess maybe you had to know how to make the right kind of chiffon. But that's what gives Wang Taisheng's images, their particular shine and their light. And interestingly, Shifu had the three main Buddhas at Gold Mountain, Jinshan Si, in the Buddha house, the San Rulai, Shakyamuni Buddha, Medicine Buddha, and Amitabha. Those three were Wang Taisheng images. And Shifu also had a smaller seated Qianshou Guanyin. That was also a Wang Taisheng image. And he had a Weito Pusa. And my goodness, the Weito Pusa image went to Gold Buddha in Vancouver. And it protected that monastery. If Gold Wheel on 6th Street in LA was in trouble, was in a bad neighborhood, Gold Buddha in Vancouver was on a place called East Hastings Street, which was 1 block away from Needle Park, where all the drugs were traded in Vancouver, and East Hastings, there was a 3-part newspaper series in the Vancouver Sun called The Battle for East Hastings, because while we were there, they pulled a dead body out of single occupancy hotel rooms every single day from overdoses. There were 300 some deaths at the end of the year from people who got their drugs, went into their small, rooms in these hotels and died. So it's tough neighborhood. Weito Bodhisattva kept Gold Buddha safe. My Dharma superior, Dharma Master Heng Chi, followed us, and she knows stories about Gold Buddha that would curl your hair if you had any hair to curl. Oof, scary stuff. Anyway, so Weito Bodhisattva, yeah. Now, why am I telling you the story about Guanyin Bodhisattva image and putting it on my desktop? It's because this character, Shi, to equanimity or to renunciation or serenity sometimes, different ways, giving in, giving up. When I think of that word Shi, I think of Guanyin Bodhisattva's face. And this is, I wonder, let's see here. Hold on. Give me a second. I wonder if we can see it closer. CTDB 1000 hangs Guanyin Bodhisattva. Okay, let's try it. Let's see here. CTTB 1000 and there. Images. I'll make it bigger. Let's see. That's 20. That's a TIFF 28. Okay. Let's make it bigger. This should be okay to do it. I'll make it 100%. There we go. You kind of see it, not really very satisfying. Okay, now that face, even though notice the light on the Wang Taisheng image, right? It's a stylized face. It's an artistic face. It's not like a Western true to life face, but when that image was standing at the back of the Buddha Hall at Gold Mountain before it was gilded, and my office was directly behind. When I was a novice monk up until I was ordained, I was 10 feet from this image, day and night, just right outside my window. I was in a loft where my office, and this image was there. And that face, it's not happy, it's not sad, it's not inhuman, it's not alien. It looks as if it were the embers in the fire have burned through. We talk about burned out. Somebody's burned out, meaning they've got no more interest, no more energy, no more life, resilience in them. They're burning out. Somebody's burnout, This is not that. This is burned through. All the embers are cold, but the humanity is still complete. It's a wonderful, wonderful image. And that is my definition of Shi. There's no more fuel to consume, no more desire. And yet the connection is entirely there. Because there's no more embers of desire, when you look at this Guanyin image, you see there's room for you to fit. You fit in that heart. You connect there. I spent many hours contemplating that image because it was right beside me. Full size, huge, 16 feet tall. And my office was in the loft, and there was a window right there. So I was behind Guanyin's ear, kind of, in my office. And I got to look phase. And one of the best parts about Wang Taisheng's images, the Wang family, you can still find stories online of his images, and he is gone. His son took over, and those early images are out in. If you find anywhere outside of China where those monasteries were created, many of them in Singapore, Malaysia, Philippines, Hong Kong, Taiwan, and then in the West, you see those images from that generation. They are just superb. There's something about the quality of humanity in them that has room for you. And it has to do with their the serenity, the equanimity. It's like, it's okay. Equanimity means it's okay. That too is acceptable. No situation created by humans is outside our realm of understanding and cause and effect. Not that we approve of it, but we're not shaken by it. No cruelty, no despicable savagery is somehow is ununderstandable. It's all understandable, and it's despicable, but you can save it. Guan Yin goes down to the bottom to save us and reaches up to the top to tell us the top isn't the end. Keep going. You're not a Buddha yet, right? So that's all gathered in that word "sha," that upekka in Sanskrit, nung sha. You can let it go. It's okay. Nung sha. You can give it up. You can let that go. So that's our list of 3 of those terms that are Si Wu Liang Xin, the 4 limitless attributes. Okay, and wait, one more. Here we are. Then look at this. We're gonna. What time we got? Okay, non-weariness. I really like that one. Wu Pi and Xin. The Bodhisattva can't get tired. Doesn't get tired. Why? Happy. Happy, right? I've been talking a lot. We gotta take a break here. People say banjos are happy. He dispels calamities and lengthens life. Namo, Namo. He dispels calamities and lengthens life. Namo, Namo. Medicine master thus come. Namo, Namo. Medicine master thus come. Namo, Namo. Non-weariness. How do you get to non-weariness? Lots of coffee? Yeah. Somebody was saying the other day, coffee protects against Alzheimer's. Sales of coffee just among seniors just went up. Yeah, coffee is an endangered commodity. There's just can't produce enough anymore. Knowledge of sutras and shastras. This bodhisattva is building a foundation for the other 10 stages by knowing all the words the Buddha left behind, and then the words left behind by those who read what the Buddha said. Shastras, commentaries. Not only do we know what the Buddha said, but oh my goodness. There's, when I hear this theory that only original Buddhism is worth listening to, that the rest is fabricated, the Buddha didn't speak it, all I can say is keep an open mind. There are many things in this world beyond your frame of reference that you can't imagine. What I'm referring to are the commentaries in the Mahayana canon, in the Da Zhang Jing. Take, for example, the commentary that I focused on during my master's training at UC Berkeley with Professor Lancaster. It's called the Da Zhi Du Lun. It's called the Shastra, the commentary on the great wisdom that crosses over. What is it? It's Bodhisattva Nagarjuna, and some would say Kumarajiva, the translators, commentary to the Mahaprajna Paramita Sutra. Don't tell me the Buddha didn't teach that somehow it was made up later and therefore not worthy of our study. Touch the Da Zhi Du Lun and your mind expands. It is the awakened nature with added color and commentary. Fascinating. It's an encyclopedia of all the knowledge of the 4th century, 3rd and 4th century in Buddhist India and the trade routes. It's just profound and chock full of kindness and compassion. And if you haven't read it, don't knock it. Don't diss it until you acknowledge that it even exists, before you know it exists. That's one of the commentaries. Then you take the commentary to the Avatamsaka Sutra, which is the Huayan Su Chao, Master Chengguan, known as Avatamsaka Bodhisattva. He wrote one entire commentary to the sutra, and then his disciple said, Shifu, it's too complicated, it's too lofty. He wrote a second commentary to explain the first commentary. And again, it's 100 volumes translated into English. And it will be when it's done. It hasn't been done yet. And yet it is so rich and so full of all of the knowledge at the time in the Tang dynasty, the 7th century, the 8th century. And you marvel at the wisdom and the erudition of these men and women who were alive at the time before there was electricity, so there was no distracting entertainment to confuse their minds. They didn't have Netflix, they didn't have Hulu, they didn't have Disney Plus. And so their focus was on the Dharma and on humanity, and the things they wrote connected. So powerful. So I just am not impressed by people who say, oh, the Mahayanas, somebody wrote that the Mandarins wrote these in the past, the Buddha. It's like, get real. Just be humble. There's a library full of these incredible texts that people haven't read unless they read Chinese or Korean or Japanese or Tibetan. It's just so much. And it's really good to be humble in the face of knowledge like this. So, look at our Bodhisattva who knows those Shastras, knows these sutras, and then is good at understanding worldly dharmas. They're joyful, they're connect, people get them, they know music, they know gem cutting, they know jewelry making, they know medicine, they know logic, they know poetry, they know crafts, arts and crafts. They're good at martial arts. They're good at riding horseback. They're good at weaponry. They're good at martial, disciplines, Zen archery. They know these things because they can connect them to principle so that people go, oh, I see deeper than I did before. Repentance and reform. They are able to reflect upon their past, hold those memories in hand and compare it to what they understand now about virtue and the strength of virtue, and they go, oh, I sure wish I hadn't done that. I'm not going to do it again. I'm going to change. Repentance and renewal would be another way to translate this. So they're able to do that. They're able to reflect on their behavior and wish to change. In that is the power of spring. What do they say? Master Chungguan, the bodhisattva I mentioned, the great teacher of the Tang Dynasty, he said, okay, the Avatamsaka is based largely on Samantabhadra's 10 practices and vows. We've heard them before, Pushen Pusa Shida Yuanwang, right? The 10 great vows, kings of vows. If we reduce those 10 down to the essentials, how many would there be? So, well, we can get rid of 3 of them. Still have a good set. Well, actually, come to think of it, you could drop off a couple more, and you still have, And when he's done, he says, there are actually 2. There are 2. 2 of those 10, priceless vows that if you had those 2, you could rebuild all the virtue of the 10. What are they? Of the 10? First is to worship and respect all Buddhas. 一者礼敬诸佛，二者称赞如来 right? You know the list. 三者广修供养，四者忏悔业障，五者随喜功德，六者轻转法轮，七者听佛注释，八者常随佛学，九者恒顺众生，十者普皆回向。Those are the 10. Bowing, praising, offering, repenting, rejoicing, requesting, learning, including, and transferring merit. If you took those 10 and got rid of 8, what 2 would be left? 1 would be repenting and renewing, and the other would be transferring merit. And you'd have everything else, you see, right? So it's like, oh, well, that's really, I wouldn't have picked that one, number 4 and number 10. Interesting. How powerful is this ability to reflect on mistakes, renew them? What does this do to cause and effect? That's a question philosophers might dig into. Is cause and effect reversible? Completely so would be Samantabhadra's vows. So, power of stability, Jiangu Li, able to endure. We endure. And then, making offerings. That's the 3rd vow of Samantabhadra. But then look at this one. 依教, how does it go? 依教修行, he says. It's not 依教奉行, it's 依教修行. Wasn't that what it was? He said, 依教, right, 依教修行. There it is. 依教奉行. Yeah. Here literally, according to the teachings, correcting your steps. 修行, you correct your steps according to the teaching. In other words, that's our word for cultivation, 修行. Look at that. How interesting. Here's our first stage bodhisattva. What's he base all his practice on? Doing it the way it was taught. Following instructions. Yeah. Yes, sir, says the new recruit. Is that what you say? Did they say that? Yes, sir. No, not you say. In the U.S., yeah. Are you a maggot? Yes, sir. We are maggots. Okay. There you go. That's the foundation of the Bodhisattva's practices. This is the handbook. This is the manual. This is the how-to, the daily instructions for what you do. Is that philosophy? You can approach it philosophically, but I don't get that from it. I get The Bodhisattva path is real, it's inspiring, and vital. It's at least half of the Buddha's path. And for people who say, you know, the Arhat is noble, they're kind of outdated, anachronistic, nobody can do it anymore. Meanwhile, let's just go meditate and get mindful. Nothing wrong with that. That's not the story. That's not the end. The textbook that was used in class after class after class for year after year was Walpola Rahula's What the Buddha Taught. Didn't mention the Bodhisattva path. Didn't exist because Venerable Rahula was a Sri Lankan monk, and they know about the Bodhisattva. They don't teach that. Mahayana sutras are considered fraudulent. Apocryphal is the word. Apocryphal. 伪造. Well, everybody has their own flavor. If somebody really likes salty food, you can't tell them the sweet's better. The mistake and the mischief comes in saying the sweet doesn't exist or is fraudulent. Everybody has to eat salty. That's a mistake. So, what does that leave us with? There's a lot to learn. There's more to learn. Alrighty. Something I want to share before our time is up here is musical issues. Where have I gone? I've gone to dharmaradio.org. Everybody find Dharma Radio, DHARMARADIO.org. We got something new here. This is north of Central California. We talked about Paso Robles. This is called Big Sur. Big Sur is just south. Monterey, to get my, yeah. This is, you're looking at Big Sur, the Big Sur coastline, painted by Father Arthur Poulin, a Benedictine monk of the Camaldolese lineage. This is New Camaldoli Benedictine Hermitage. You see these are the huts. The monks live in their various huts. This is the church. They go in there 8 times a day. This is the bookstore. This is the refectory where they eat. That's the work shed. And there are whales passing by in the Pacific Ocean. And every time it rains heavily these days, the road washes away. But their current abbot, called a prior, Cyprian Concilio, Father Cyprian, is a dear friend, has offered 3 of his songs as a reward for a good deed. If you would like to listen to Father Cyprian's music and have it, as they say, for your very own, here is a chance to do it. Just do a good deed. I'm going to click on it. It will take you here. Here is the story, Father Cyprian. Here's his picture. OSB is Order of St. Benedict, Camaldolese. And I wrote the biography. Father Arthur Poulin is the artist, Big Sur Spring. Laura Tan put our website together. You get to hear some of the clips, and these clips are from the beginning. There's only the guitar intro. You can't hear his singing until you get past the 30 seconds, but it's beautiful guitar playing, certainly. And it ends just as the verse comes in. You can hear his voice. Father Cyprian is a lovely singing voice. So please do consider the option, going to Good Karma Music, going out, doing a good deed, telling us what you did right here. Put your name in there, tell us the story of what you did, where you're from. Then you have to allow us to share your story, and you write it. What did I do? I did a good deed. Send me some music. Okay, there you go. And you have to add 1 + 1. Tell us what it is. And you submit it, and you get an email that says, here's to download your choice. You can pick from Buddhist folk songs here or Father Cyprian's music. Interestingly, the Catholic monk, 2 of the 3 songs are sung in Hindi. He is truly an interfaith monk. But I love the idea of the Catholic, the Benedictine abbot's songs are available on the Buddhist's website as a reward for a good deed. That's the way it should be. The world is not often enough that way. All right, going to do some shameless advertising. If people would like to hear like to take part in my new lecture series on Zheng Dao Ge, the Song of Enlightenment, the Song of Realizing the Tao, by great master Yongjia Dashi Zheng Dao Ge. We lecture 6:30 in the morning on Saturday mornings here in Australia and in China. In China, it's actually 4:30 a.m. Taiwan, 4:30 a.m. It's really hard in East Asia, because it's just so early. But it is 12:30 p.m. in California. It is, I believe, 8:30 p.m. in Europe. We are explaining the Zheng Dao Ge, and I told the story yesterday morning of the encounter between the 6th Patriarch and Master Yongjia, that wonderful, incredible Chan banter encounter where Master Yongjia stomps in, and he's carrying a staff in his hand, a pewter staff. He doesn't bow. He doesn't bow to the 6th Patriarch. The 6th Patriarch says, where are you from that they teach you to be so rude and arrogant? And Master Yongjia says, birth and death's the important thing. Impermanence comes really fast. And so the 6th Patriarch says, okay, is that the case? Well, why don't you show me non-birth and tell me what do you have to do with speed? And they're boom, 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 the back and forth, the back and forth. It's really brilliant. Great story. So then he left behind this incredible song with 63 verses. And we have Master Hua's singing of it. We have Shifu captured as he sings it. And I've done a couple versions. Actually, I'm on my 3rd version of the Getting a Western Melody for the English translation of Zheng Dao Ge. And the latest one, the one I wanted to share, is based on a Christian hymn now. And it's really nice. It goes like this. The mirror of the mind is bright without a flaw. Everything's reflected, you can see it all. All 10,000 things revealed, perfect, round, and bright. No inside, no outside, just brilliant, pure light. Like that. That's the, yeah. You can hear the white clapboard church, you know. The root, dharmas are all dust. Mind and dharmas both are like a mirror, stained and cracked. Polish out the stains and cracks, the mirror shines like new. Forget both mind and dharmas, the nature now is true. Something like that. Let's see. Goodbye to good and evil, goodbye to loss and gain. In stillness and tranquility, you never ask again. Your wisdom mirror was coated thick, you never wiped it clean. Now it shines without a flaw, there's nothing you can't see. Like that, something like that. I think that will work. That's a good one. We've been using the blind fiddler, which is minor key. It sounds ancient. It sounds like it comes out of the mountains. This is the Mani Pearl. This is the Mani Pearl, a treasure still unknown. Look to the Tathagata, but find it on your own. It works in 6 uncanny ways. It's here and now it's gone. A single round and perfect light. Now it's hidden, now it's shown. That's also got some, once you get the root, you can let the branch tips be. Like a jeweled moon that shines in lapis lazuli. Now that you have understood this wish-fulfilling gem, your benefits to self and others truly never end. That's, different. Instead of the king among all dharmas, there's nothing more sublime. As every Tathagata together realized will hear my explanation of this wish-fulfilling jewel. Everyone who picks it up in faith will learn the truth. That's the church setting, the hymn. What's that? Yeah. 法中望最高尚，恒沙如来同共彰。我今借此如一株，信受之者皆相应。 We heard Master Hua sing it for us, and so incredible. It's, by the way, I wanted to mention, all you need to do to hear Master Hua singing the Zhengdao Ge himself, actually singing the Zhengdao Ge, is you go out to find your browser, and you go to YouTube, and you go here. I'll get you. Now, if you're listening in China, that's a challenge, I understand. But I think it probably should be available in China.
Did you know that animals listen?
Okay. This is our, wonderful guy who's healing animals. Okay, here we go. Here is the link that I wanted to, I'll give it to Jerry. Jerry can pass it on to our folks listening on YouTube. I'll put this in our chat. Here we are. Okay, there it is. It's called Yongjia Dashi Zhengdao Ge Xuanhua Shangren Chang Song, Song of Enlightenment chanted by Venerable Master Hua. So people can find this on YouTube if it's available to you. And you can see the characters. Okay, please do go find this, because it's 17 minutes long, and it is jaw-droppingly wonderful to have Master Hua sing for you the Zhengdao Ge, Song of Enlightenment. He says any day that you can memorize and recite the Song of Enlightenment from memory, that day you will have no afflictions in your life. So that's the promise. Try it. Don't believe me, don't take it from me, try it yourself. Alrighty, let's see here. Is Jinchuan or Jinwei Shi available to tell us what's happening in Berkeley?
Yes, you have the website?
There he is. Okay, good. I never know if anybody's going to answer when I say, Berkeley.
To the black ether.
Then there we go. Okay.
So yes. So first, you see on the top there, Rang Shu will also be lecturing for the 10,000 Buddhas Sunday lecture series from 7:30 to 9 on December 19th and the 26th. The title is Translating the Amitabha Sutra. I don't know if you want to say anything about it, Dharma Master.
Yeah, that sounds like a kind of a dry topic, but there are two lectures. I'm going to go into all sorts of things, like what are the challenges for Westerners approaching the Pure Land? Now, we have some lay disciples here in Australia who have said they are really looking forward to the real thing. Don't dilute it. Don't dilute it down. Don't hide it from us. Teach people how to bow to Amitabha, how to recite the Buddha's name. We want it. We're ready for it. So that is, it's interesting. A lot of issues, such as if you grew up in a tradition where God was a male figure and he was jealous and angry and punished people, then having the Buddha show up in the body of Amitabha doesn't look so attractive. And it can even repel you, people who came to Buddhism running away, wounded Catholics, for example. So I'm going to talk about these issues and how they figure into translating the Amitabha Sutra and preparing us for Pure Land practice. Okay.
Okay, so Dharma Master, if you could scroll down. There's Ted Berger's movie coming up tomorrow here in, I can never say, is it San Rafael?
San Rafael. It's as if
Rafael.
there was, as if no A. Drop the A.
Rafael. San Rafael Film Center is actually having an international Buddhist film festival. And Ted's film, which is called The Mountain Path, which is a reimagining of his pretty well-known movie Amongst White Clouds, which I would say introduced kind of the Chan hermit tradition to the West, is going to be played on December 12th, Sunday at 4:30 p.m. So from Berkeley here, we're planning on going as a group. And if you're interested, you can find a link to where you can purchase a ticket on the website, and hope you can join. It should be a very good movie. And you get to see that you don't have to go all the way to China to actually meet the monks who live on the Zhongnan Mountains. Yeah.
Yep.
And then other than that, we have our regular programs. So we have a Great Compassion Mantra Dedication of Merit at the end of this month. Some of the lectures will be on hiatus. So our daily ceremonies are still going on. But Marty's lecture yesterday was the last one for the semester. I'm not sure about Stephen Tainer, but I think people are probably taking a break through December 15th. So he's also finishing up this week. Upcoming week. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's it.
Great. All right. So that film by Ted Berger is a rare look at a community of cultivators in the mountains called Zhongnanshan out in Shanxi. Near closest city is Xi'an, and they are carrying on this ageless tradition of hermits living completely self-reliant in nature, cultivating the Dharma. And Ted took his camera out and met 7 of them and brings those interviews to life. They're just astonishing. Anybody who's ever had a kind of a mountain fantasy of what Buddhism must be like when you're under the pine trees with a stream going by and nothing but the sounds of the wind and the clouds to bother you, go to San Rafael. San Rafael is just across the Golden Gate Bridge in Marin County. Beautiful theater where they hold film festivals there. Plenty of parking on a Sunday afternoon, 4:30 Sunday afternoon. And Ted will be there, Ted Berger, the filmmaker, to answer questions and to introduce what he was about. Ordinarily, we wouldn't be promoting a film, but this is our tradition. Our grand teacher, Master Empty Cloud, was one of those hermits out in the Zhongnanshan. So the film is not available online yet. It will be after the premiere, and so we'll be telling you more about how you can, if you're nowhere near the Bay Area of California, you can still watch the movie. But it's not available yet. This is the premiere happening tomorrow. Okay, indeed. So we are going to continue our practice of reciting by way of transference the mantra of Medicine Buddha. 药师佛观顶真言. This is, I think, an important thing that we can do in a time of COVID crisis. It's our Mahayana Buddhism's contribution to healing. And transfer the merit at the same time, sending out your goodness as far as your mind can go. One more. We can bow to that Guanyin Bodhisattva image and to the Buddhas around it. And we can bow to our teacher, Master Hua. Bow in respect to the Venerable Master. All right, well, that's going to do it for us today. See you all next week. Please stay safe, stay healthy.